Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Council of Gates Mills at 5:30 on Tuesday night. We're going to start the meeting off today in a moment of silence in a minute. We want to give recognition to Dan Collister, who passed away on Sunday evening. Dan has been a resident of the village since 1928. He gave generously of his time, leadership, and talent, and devoted service to the community that he loved. Over the course of his life, he served the village with distinction as its treasurer, council member, and mayor, contributing thoughtfully and steadfastly to its governance and its civic well-being. Dan was also a founder, president, and trustee of the Gates Mills Land Conservancy, where his efforts reflected a deep commitment to protecting the natural beauty and the character of the village. In addition, he served as president and trustee of the Gates Mills Improvement Society, further demonstrating his dedication to the preservation and enhancement of Gates Mills. As a devoted trustee of the Gates Mills Historical Society, Mr. Collister helped honor and preserve the village's rich traditions and heritage through numerous historical vignettes, both written and spoken. He brought the stories of Gates Mills to life and ensured that its history would continue to be shared with future generations. He also delighted many audiences with his thespian abilities as a longtime member of the Gates Mills Players, offering his talent and yet another expression of service, creativity, and community spirit. Dan's many contributions were carried out with a devotion and purpose, always in the interest of bettering the village and always to preserve the beauty, the history, and the character of Gates Mills. In lasting recognition of his service and legacy, on April 12th of 2022, the polo field was named the Dan R. Collister Polo Field pursuant to Village Resolution 2022-10. Dan passed away peacefully on Sunday evening, August 16th. He was 98. Thank you.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner. Yes. Young.
Thank you. We have two council members participating by Zoom today, so we may be a little slower sometimes, and also want to check in from time to time, make sure that if there's comments that they have or viewpoints they want to share, that we have caught on to those, and we'll ask them likewise to raise their electronic hand or otherwise signify if there's something that they want to mention or bring up that we hadn't seen. Next item of business is the pay ordinance number 1312. I'm sorry, the next item of business is minutes of the regular council meeting of July 21. Were there any corrections sent?
I had two. One's on page 3, and it's just an explanation. It's under the financial report, item 6, third paragraph. The Budget and Finance Committee, which is the Finance Budget Committee, will be starting fairly soon to work on the 27 budget. A lot of effort goes into it, but it doesn't get voted on by council. It's presented to council. Since there are no council members on the committee, being involved in the budget process is probably a very good idea. So I didn't quite understand that. Can
Yeah.
somebody
Chuck,
express that?
Chuck, that is something you had said.
Okay.
Chuck, microphone.
Turn on your microphone.
That's my voice is very loud. In the past, I have observed that the budget is prepared, presented to council, and there's really no discussion about it at all. And as the treasurer, I would like as many people as possible be looking at the budget process, determining this is the way we move forward. So that was my.
Good, thank you. Oh, and the second one was on page 8. And it was actually, in my discussion here, 11355, it says there are 5 council members appointed by the mayor. There's 5 members appointed by the mayor who are at every land conservancy board meeting.
So it should say members, not council members.
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew something wasn't right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the minutes?
I move approval is amended.
Thank you. Any further comment? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner. Yes. Young.
Thank you. Next item, number 3, pay ordinance number 1312 in the amount of $666,642. Are there any questions on the pay ordinance?
Move to approve pay ordinance 1312.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Scott. Megan or John, any questions?
I believe that it's actually 462, not 642. I don't know that it matters.
No questions for me.
Okay, I will ask for a motion to approve. Oh, we have that. Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
UNESCO,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is item number 4, oath of office to Robert Hanson. Robbie, as we call him, has been with the program now for almost 2 years and has distinguished himself to the level of being promoted to engineer, a classification that we put in place last year. We would like him to come forward with his mom and dad or his whole family if they care to, and take the oath of office as well as being pinned with the engineer's badge. Harper? Okay, next item is item number 5, the Gates Mills Land Conservancy Semi-Annual Report. Jamie Carricker will comment on that. You all received the semi-annual report in your package. Contained a narrative description of the various activities and programs that they're doing, some financial information as well. And this represents the Land Conservancy's semi-annual report to the village on its activities and affairs. Jamie, do you want to make some opening comments?
Sure, yeah. Thank you, council. Thank you, mayor. Just a few highlights from the report from folks who did not read. Quick update on finances. This year we've received a little bit over $73,000 in levy funds. Of those, we've spent 2,413. This is through the end of July. This includes expenses for real estate taxes, which we should be reimbursed for, as well as tree and fence maintenance on owned properties. We currently hold $213,102 in levy funds in a dedicated levy fund account. Again, levy funds are only used on acquisitions, conservation easements, and stewardship of our own properties. We have separate fund accounts for operations, special gifts, and stewardship and defense, which is more of a legal focus and is set by Land Trust Alliance formula. Our total cash reserves with all of those is $980,000, a little bit over $980,000. On the fundraising side of things, we've raised approximately $32,205 so far this year, which puts us at about 81% of our fundraising goal for the year. Our target is $40,000, which we received from roughly 150 people, vast majority in the village, almost everyone. That's about a 48% increase over previous years prior to this current levy cycle. This year, we've sent out a fundraising mailer to every resident in May. We'll expect to send another one closer to the end of the year. That's our normal schedule. In addition, we've, over the last few years, been awarded $22,000 in grants from one private grant to address invasive plants on our owned properties. We're in the process of reapplying for that for 2027. We're going to hope we get that. In addition, we've separately applied for grant funding from Cornell University alongside partners, the Holden Forests and Gardens, They helped us identify this opportunity and helped us complete the grant application. We also applied for grant funding from the federal EQIP program, which provides funding to private landowners to do invasive remediation. Fortunately, competition is very stiff and we were not awarded grants for either of those. We're planning to reapply, but we didn't get those. In terms of activities, we've completed approximately half of our annual inspections on all 57 of the properties we own or hold easements or deed restrictions on. These restrictions are part of our land trust accreditation, but also important for us to make sure that we protect our property borders, conservation easements, and that sort of thing. So we do those religiously. We also continue to partner with the village and the tree canopy committee on its invasive removal pilot. We've seen success from that pilot, and the board has voted over the last 6 months and in last year as well to expand that using our own funding to do remediation on our LeConte property, which is on Mayfield Road, as well as WIC, which started this year, and that is on Chagrin River Road and Beverly Lane. And that we started that this spring. Lastly, in terms of activity and communications, earlier this year, we launched our new website, which was a major multi-month project, more than a year really. That was all funded by donations and with the goal of better connecting with residents, providing more information, making it easier to connect with us and easier to donate to us. We've sent 4 newsletters so far this year, sharing educational information about our properties, including how do we identify properties conserved. We've also promoted upcoming events, recognized community conservation heroes, and many other topics. In the spring, we held an event with Gentle Boy Farms and Jay Hayden, focused on the basics of beekeeping, had really strong community attendance, and thank you, Councilman Turner, for kind of spearheading that and working with us on that. We also partnered with the village and the garden club on an Arbor Day tree planting event earlier this year in the spring, where we planted a tree for Tom Lieberbach, who was a co-founder of the Gates Mills Land Conservancy, a longtime community leader. We were joined by community members and his family, had really strong attendance there as well. It was a great event. And then lastly, I would just say in mid-October, we're in the planning stages for our annual meeting, where we'll be celebrating our collective conservation successes, sharing more updates on our work, and also talking about what we're going to be doing in the year ahead. All are welcome. It's open to everyone. You have to be a member, a village resident member, in order to vote on directors, because we do have director elections. But everybody's welcome. It's free. And more details are to come on that. So that's my report. If anyone has any questions, happy to take those. Sure.
On this report that you issued, you have some pictures of various properties and the work that you've done. And on the first page is a beautiful picture of a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where that was taken?
I do. I took it.
Okay, I mean, what property?
That was on our Jones Ravine property, or Precinct Point, actually. It's off of Old Mill. Yeah, it's off Old Mill. It's 2 very steep ravines on either side of the property. Yeah, it's off Old Mill.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Do residents have access to that?
So that's a great question. So I think that maybe if I can take public access just from a broader point of view, that property folks do not have access to and on their own. We do periodically offer walks on our properties that are guided. That one is especially, I would say, extremely dangerous. I do that inspection every year myself, and you could fall and break your neck. I mean, it's literally 150 feet down to the bottom in some places. So we don't permit people to walk on those on their own. Public access is something that is kind of a broader topic, that we're happy to talk about. But safety is number one concern for things like that.
On any of the properties that you own or conserve, is public access allowed?
Currently, no, and the reason why is a couple of reasons. I mentioned safety. Another point is that we're a land conservancy and not a park service. And I think it's important to differentiate between the two, and they're both very important roles. Park services, obviously have resources for parking lots and trash and police support and staff to maintain the properties. We don't have that amount of resources to manage things like parks to allow people to have public access. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is that a lot of our properties are very close to neighbors. And those folks are not comfortable with people walking on those properties, and we want to respect the wishes of our neighbors. We have discussed the idea of public access as a board, and I think that it's something that, if the residents would like to see and, council is interested, we're happy to talk about it further, but I think there's a lot more to it than just opening. Well, there definitely is a lot more to it than just opening access and letting people walk it anywhere. So we've been very conservative there.
Thank you.
Jamie, I had one question. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm driving through the desert at the moment after a work site visit. So can you speak to the balance that the Land Trust Alliance sets for stewardship and defense and the formula for that, or what that's based on?
Yeah, and I can talk to it from a high level. I would need to do more digging to get you like what the actual formula entails, but essentially that is a set amount that is recalculated based on the properties that we acquire, and it's meant to accommodate for, essentially a legal defense. We want to make sure that we're defending our conservation easements, we're defending our boundaries. So when you buy land, you're not defenseless. So that's what the main gist of that is. It's a little confusing because it says stewardship. We don't draw upon that budget for invasives or planting trees or anything like that.
Thank you. And so does that balance, if you were to use part of it, need to be replenished back up to that formula level?
I believe so. I was talking to our vice president, who's been involved very much longer than me, 15 plus years, 20 maybe. He said he has no recollection of us ever spending from that account.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jamie? Okay, Jamie, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation and your report. Before I get into the mayor's report, section 6 here, because we're going to talk about the conservation levy and the allocation of the proceeds, just so we can be respectful of the audience, who in the audience is expecting to want to make a comment today? Or are you all here to kind of listen and learn? One? Two? Okay, so perhaps a few, but not all 15 of you. So it just gives me an opportunity to kind of manage the flow of the meeting and the time for that element. Okay, we'll go to item 6, the mayor's report. First off, let's cover something recent. The band concert happened this weekend. It was planned to be outside on the village green, as it is every year. The rain forecast was not friendly to us, and late in the morning, it was decided to move the concert inside. I was not in town, otherwise we would have been there, but I understand it was very nice, and the music was played here, and there were somewhere 50 to 60 people, if that's the recollection. So thank you. The staff, primarily Robin, Jean, and Janet, do all the work for that element, along with some volunteer helpers. So we appreciate the extra hours and the weekend hours to have that tradition continue.
I just want to echo the thanks for that. I was there and they did a great job pivoting with the weather. And it was a really nice event, and their families helped too. And Mike was in the mix as well, of course. So big thanks to all of them.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, item 6. So the first two items, we had a town hall meeting on May 29th. It was moderated by senior reporter Tom Barris, who has 25 plus years of experience in this area. We had a panel of outside experts to talk about conservation preservation, which is more than just land acquisition, and about what the village has been doing with that, and what the Land Conservancy has been doing with that, and participation with the metro parks and some of the homeowners of the contiguous properties. Overall, it was intended to be an educational session where information is shared and questions are asked and people listen. And I think we accomplished that. But a number of other people thought, and maybe were looking for more of a debate. And that wasn't the format that was planned. And we left with some unanswered questions. The biggest one probably is what's the split and why no longer 50-50? If that is the case, what should the number be? Who said it? And those kinds of questions. So let's just get into that. I'll present my point of view on that and how we've gotten to those numbers over the years. A few facts, though. Every dollar that's raised by the levy comes to the village. There's not a dollar that's raised that goes directly to the Land Conservancy or anyone else. Every dollar that's raised by the levy is under the control of council as to how that money is spent, whether it's maintained by the village to do the village's programs, whether it's contracted out with arborists, whether it's shared with the Gates Mills Land Conservancy. So the village always has control of the levy proceeds. In the beginning, the proceeds were shared 95% to the Conservancy and 5% to the village. And it was done that way because the Conservancy's mission at that time was new, and its goal was to lock down land through easements or deed restrictions, acquisition, whatever seemed to be the means to address that piece of property. And the majority of the funds were needed for the Conservancy to do those types of things. And that worked fairly well for 30 years. And the village itself never did much with land conservancy, with land conservation, relying on the Gates Mills Land Conservancy to do those tasks and those roles. In 21, it became a little different set of dynamics. The village was facing at that time what it viewed as a possible financial shortfall. Was seeing that some of the problems were being caused by stormwater and other kinds of items when you happen to live in a valley and half the homes live on top of the hill and the other half live down by the river, and you have water that runs between them all the time. And there was a desire, I think, at that time to make sure the village had taken care of some of its needs and what is permitted by the levy, which is stormwater management and hillside stabilization and other kinds of things. So the village essentially believed it needed additional funds to be available to it. At the same time, the Great Mills Land Conservancy was doing less acquisitions in that it had done many for 30 years. There's still more to do. But the facts are that their mission had changed somewhat, and the village's financial needs probably were more acute than they had been in the past. And so the parties agreed on a 50-50 split. With that came a substantially larger and longer and more detailed operating agreement between the Land Conservancy and the village. Section 3 of that contract set out the 50-50 split. Section 4 required the village to deposit its share of the proceeds into its own conservation and space fund, which it did. Section 5 called for the Land Conservancy to report on a semi-annual basis to the village. Section 6 required the village to receive from the Land Conservancy a financial report. Section 7 required of the Land Conservancy to build and maintain a $700,000 reserve. Section 8 of the agreement required the Land Conservancy to calculate available funds, which would be those funds available for possible acquisitions or easements. Section 9 required of the Land Conservancy to notify Village Council of any commitments that it intended to have with respect to acquiring land. Section 10 gave the Conservancy the ability to approach Council to ask for other funding if there were acquisitions that the Conservancy itself didn't have the reserves or the capacity to financially take on. Section 11 required a fundraising plan to be put together. All of these requirements were on top of the village's right from the starting days to appoint 5 of the 15 trustees. So from a village standpoint, there was a lot imposed upon, and they agreed to it, the Land Conservancy to continue this relationship going forward. And both parties have done that for the last 5 years. That was the basis of the 50-50 split, and those were some of the requirements factually that are in the operating agreement. So we now find ourselves with the 50-50 split, and some people would say, what should the new number be? One approach is to say who's best responsible for the activities that are needed to conserve our open spaces and preserve our lands and our waterways. The Land Conservancy has 35 years of doing that. Has done, in my view, a very fine job of doing that. The village doesn't do that routinely. We'll trim trees, we'll cut grass, we'll fix things that are broken, but we don't have people on staff full-time walking properties and worrying about invasive species and different kinds of horticultural challenges. During this period of the last 5 years, the village has been able to accumulate in its fund $500,000 roughly. It's 489,000, I think, at the end of June or July. Why so much? Well, we used to only collect 5%, and 5% would pay for a few small things, and most of the money went to the Land Conservancy. But the village felt it needed the money to do stormwater management and to do other kinds of things that they wanted to do. And so the money was accumulated. The large culvert underneath Mayfield Road that created a pond several times a year when there was severe flooding was always thought to be a $500,000 expenditure, maybe more. The first bids that we received on fixing that 2 years ago were in excess of $500,000. And some of that money that was in the Land Conservation and Open Space Fund could be earmarked for that expenditure. Frankly, that's probably the only place it would come from. The state of Ohio does not fund stormwater management problems. That all had to come from the village. Well, instead of spending that money, the village was able to find itself ARPA funds, federal funds, COVID funds, whatever you want to call it, in 2 tranches. One, an allocation that came to us directly, and the second one is the money we competed for through a county supplemental fund that was created. And we were able to spend about $350,000 of, call it fresh money, as opposed to conservation fund money, to fix the problems in the stormwater management side on Mayfield Road. As a result, the money that was in the village's Land Conservation Open Space Fund stayed there and continued to rise. We're now at the point of $450,000 of village money in the village's fund that they could use for a variety of things, as long as they are within the restrictions of what's in the levy and the operating agreement with the Land Conservancy. What do we need per year? The village itself needs about $50,000 per year to maintain open space and conservation efforts that it has underway and that it wasn't doing years ago. The invasive species program affects the village land, it affects conservancy land, it affects Metro Parks land, it affects all of our neighboring folks' land and our neighbors' land. That program itself is about a $40,000 program per year. We have laid out, with the help of the Tree Canopy Committee and the Land Conservancy, a program over the next 5 years to tackle about 150 acres each between ourselves and the Land Conservancy. We have a 10-year program to take care of all the properties. And a question was asked several months ago, why not just speed it up and get it all done? There's limitations on what you can actually do, and contractors that will do this well, and so on. So there's about $50,000 there that's needed. $40,000 for the village. We also have some small amounts we spend on from the Tree Canopy Committee on Arbor Day, on having an outside arborist on staff, not on staff physically, but on retainer to advise us on trees and horticultural issues. We participate in the Chagrin River Watershed Partners. There's dues there. They've been very helpful to about 39 communities in the Chagrin River Valley on keeping the waters clean. They've taken the lead on the dam remnant removal project of the dam where the Chagrin River dam was down by Deerfield. They've been supportive of the efforts to raise the money to also convert the unclubbed wastewater treatment plant to the village's plant. Participations in organizations like this all work in partnership with one another, and participation in the Chagrin River Watershed Partners allows us to do some of these things that we could frankly just not do ourselves. So on the low end, we need probably $50,000 to do that. We have some of that money saved up, so we don't need to necessarily take that out of every levy dollar. But if you were to look going forward, I think that's a fair spend. It doesn't include tree planting. Going forward, once the invasives are removed, after 2 or 3 years of eradication, you want to plant some trees. And it's been noted that that's an expenditure that we haven't had to spend now, and we will need to do some of that going forward. What's the levy worth? Essentially, the levy is $268,000. That's $250,000. Represents 3.5% of the village's annual budget if we kept it all. A big number, but not a huge number. For a village with our topography and the number of acres that we watch over and the stewardship that we've been given of this village and its lands and the neighbors with the conservancy and the metro parks and others, we need to spend some money to maintain the valley the way it is, the way many of us moved here for, the way many of us have enjoyed. The allocation of the funds is, again, totally council's decision. It can go back to 95 and 5 if it wanted to. Give all the money to the conservancy, let them do all the work, prove out what they have to do, give them a service level agreement the way we would in a corporate world, and say, if you want it all, here's what you got to do for it all. Probably not practical. The village needs, as I said, $50,000 to maintain the programs that we've started that we need to sustain. Other than that, there are other things that can be done. There's stormwater management, there's Hillside Creek remediation, there's other types of stabilization efforts that need to be done on stormwater management. We could go back and say, we'll just stay at 50-50. That seemed to work okay. A number that was essentially just a concession on both sides after they got tired of fighting with each other 5 years ago might end up being the right number. Or we could pick some other number that council wants to go through and figure out if it should be 75-25 or what have you. The number at this point is a matter of the village council deciding and negotiating with the Land Conservancy. Now, I've had 2 or 3 meetings with the Land Conservancy over the last 2 weeks, as I've been asked to do, and we're talking about those numbers. We're talking about other kinds of things that the Conservancy would agree to do. For example, if we went with a certain percentage, and I don't have a percentage to share with you tonight, we want to make sure that those funds are spent for those specific purposes. And if we find that the Conservancy is, let's just say, off track, then, the following year, we would be able to adjust or comment on those plans of the Conservancy and conceivably move it back on plan. You have to remember, we have 5, the village has 5 of the 15 votes. Okay, we are not just sending money across the street without any watchful eye over it. I went through the 7 items in the contract factually that allow the village to have oversight in addition to active live bodies. So that's where we're at with the numbers. It's $268,000 a year. It's $1,250,000 over 5 years. It's 3.5% of our budget. It's the amount that when Tom Barris asked 2 or 3 weeks ago, is anybody here really not able to afford that? I don't think anybody raised their hand. This is money that's well spent on the conservation side. The question is, how much should each party get? That's a detail. The first bigger question is, are we comfortable with spending that kind of money on conservation and preservation in the village? With that, I'll take any questions or other sides. This is meant to be a conversation between council members. I'm happy, once council's done, to take questions or viewpoints from the audience rather than having you wait until 8:30 when we're at the end of the agenda. So let me pause there and see if any council members want to speak.
John's got his hand up.
John?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So this is what I wanted to do the entire time was talk about this, and I have some ideas, and one of them I think is pretty fun and it's pretty. It might give us something to think about and have a starting point to a conversation. So I just want to talk about, for people who don't know what they are, what restricted funds are. And I know most of us know what they are, but some people who are watching might not. When you have a restricted fund, and you're a charity, they're generally something that is something you've got to be very, very careful about because they can really bite you. So a restricted fund is when you have a charity and someone sets up a fund, that money is for that particular restricted fund. So as an example, I mean, we have a restricted fund for our conservancy, but think about something that would be a bad instance of this. You have a project for Animal Protective League, and it's for building kennels, and you build the kennels, and they come in under budget, and now you've got money tied up in this kennel fund that can never be used for anything but building more kennels. And so that's when restricted funds are a bad idea. But there are times when restricted funds are a really super good idea. And so what I've been toying with and wanted to talk with Jamie and everybody about is restricted funds for the conservancy for purposes that recur every year with a number, kind of a base number attached to it. And then we can report against those numbers. Now, what that gets us in this case, I'm going to give you let's say that we set up 6 to 8 restricted funds. Okay. I'll give you my example of 4 of them. First of all, and I have like a little presentation, but I'm not going to pop it up on the screen. But first of all, let's think about one of the restricted funds being administration and bookkeeping. So I was earmarking to this, and I talked with Jamie briefly about this, but I think that it is absolutely imperative that there be someone that we pay to do accounting at the GMLC. So let's say that was 5 hours a week, so 20 hours a month. So we put this budget in place for administration, bookkeeping, and accounting fees, and then that person is responsible for making sure the reports are on time, making sure the 990 is up to date, reporting on spend, etc. But these are you can definitely get someone who's a part-time person, and there's lots of organizations that do this to do sort of the accounting. Let's say that fund 2 is for legal. So you say, okay, here's a legal fund that we have, and this is for doing easements, easement violations, title and closing work, and everything that has to do with the legal side. But number 3 and 4 are kind of tied, and I think this is where it gets a little interesting. Number 3 would be, I really think that there would be a big need for a fundraising person. So literally, this is one of the most expensive things that nonprofits get is a fundraising person, and I understand that. But let's just say that they put in a fundraising fund, and I'll just throw a number out there, and we want a half-time person, and we're going to allocate $100,000 to that. Now that person they run an annual campaign, they build and work on a donor list, they pursue grants, that kind of stuff, and they basically organize all the fundraising. So put a pin in that, and then let's talk about bucket number 4. And this one I think is one that everybody loves, and it's invasive species remediation. So with invasive species remediation, we could have a fund that's set up that says, hey, what we're going to do is we are going to aggressively go controlling invasive species. Now, I have heard from 5 people. I know that that's not many out of 2,200, but 5 people have contacted me and said, hey, my property abuts the Gates Mills Land Conservancy property, and theirs has a lot of invasive species on it. And so I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing stuff with mine, but the GMLC is not. So I would say that you word this in a very specific way that says that we're going to aggressively go and try to mitigate invasive species that abut next to residents of Gates Mills. So the cool thing there is that everybody's going to be for that. you set up a budget and you put out $200,000 for it. And now we can fund that with money that we have already inside of our current conservation fund or new funds or whatever we want to put into that. We may want to put more into that. May want to put less, but it's something that we can actually put into there and see physical work getting done. So now you have someone who owns it, someone who can actually work on that 750 acres that we got, as long as it's like next to a property. And then we can talk about how we would work with properties that's up against, say, the Gates Mills properties, et cetera. But then coming back to that person who is the fundraising one, I thought it'd be really fun to say, and again, this is just food for thought, but I thought it'd be fun to have everybody be able to kind of vote with $50. So let's say we set up these 6 to 8 buckets, and I would work with Jamie. I'm the best guy to work with, Jamie, because I know nothing about the outside. I only know about procedure. So I stay inside all the time. So my only concern is that things run properly. And so we set up these 6 to 8 buckets, and we say, okay, every $50 donated to any fund counts as a vote for that fund. And then we can publish to people what the village actually wants. So if suddenly they get a whole bunch of money in invasive species remediation, well, we know that the public wants more invasive species remediation. And so basically we say, hey, $50 get you a vote. If you really like it, give $2,000 and you get a lot of votes. That's 40 votes right there. However they want to go ahead and do it. But that would be something that the fundraising person could come in and say, all right, we're going to go and see what the village really wants. And for $50, people can vote and they can put in whatever bucket they want. And then they can report back. And then that gives us some great statistics as to where we can put our dollars, because we're actually hearing back from the community. Now this is just a little framework I was coming together with. And so that was my idea and how I would like to, have some discussions, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to, kind of put those buckets in place. So it is a start of an idea, but it's a place to start a discussion, and there it is.
John, what would be the buckets that you're thinking about? Because no one's going to want to put their lottery ticket in the financial bucket, the legal bucket, or the admin bucket. So it's going to have to be something a little more attractive.
That is a great. So I had 8 buckets, and then I put them down to 4 because I didn't want to be. Well, I guess I am outward all the time, but I did have 8 buckets and I have them. But I thought that the admin bucket, I kind of figured we would be funding that no matter what, but that was one of the smaller buckets. Legal, though, I believe I see Michael Press out in the audience over there. He is oftentimes given Jamie a little bit of a hard time about the legal side of it, and I thought, well, what better way to express yourself than put your money where your mouth is and throw some into that legal fund? And so I know that we've already and I would push him to do that too. But I always said that so then I think the conservation one would be good. And one of the ones that I was not sure about was whether the general fund was for purchasing property or you put a fund together for purchasing property. Now that a vote for purchasing property tells you that the village wants you to purchase more property. I had one for planting trees, but I wanted to leave my input at 4 and then work out 4 with the GMLC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council comments?
Well, I think that that's an interesting idea, John. But we do have to talk about the allocation of the funds, right? Between the village and the conservancy. And we're at 50-50. And I don't, have any idea really what anybody else thinks about that split. So I'll ask you, John, what do you think about the split?
Well, do we have to actually, this is where I thought it would be a little interesting. Do we actually have to have the split if we're funding individual things and we get some feedback over the course of a year where people are saying, hey, I'd like to buy more property? Then we say, okay, I see where people want their money to go. Maybe we can say it goes into that bucket then. And it gives us some more control to say, we've got some money that came in, how we're going to allocate this. But up until this point, it's all been kind of forward thinking and not listening to the residents individually on those bases. So I was trying to come up with something that would give the individuals a way to cast their vote, for lack of a better word. And I'm open to anything. I mean, they could cast their votes on a website or whatever they want, but it's hard for, without someone driving that project, which is why I think someone who's responsible for that, someone that has been hired to actually do that, without someone being there driving that, hey, at least put $50 somewhere. Throw it in a bucket and tell me what you want done, or some kind of survey that gets back more than just like 30 votes. So I like to have empirical evidence that says where that money should go.
So assuming that the levy gets on the ballot and that it passes, would you want 100% of the proceeds coming to the village and then this process?
Yeah, and as the mayor said, that's actually what does happen. It's just what bucket you fill, and I think that filling the admin bucket, I think, is something that we have a fiduciary responsibility to do. I really think that we've got to fill that bucket so that we actually take that out. I mean, I know that everybody that's volunteering there, nobody wants to do the accounting. Who wants to do the accounting? I don't want to do accounting. So you hire someone who does do accounting, and we take that off their plates and let the people who work there do what they do best. I would definitely, the first thing I would do is fill up that a bucket for invasive species immediately. And again, I will say this over and over. I couldn't identify one if my life depended on it. So I'm the worst guy to go out in the field because I would come back and pretty much be covered in welts and bumps and everything. But I've heard so much and how long it takes. One of the things I keep hearing is how long it takes to do this remediation, but it seems like it's taking forever to get started. So if we've had a pilot program and it was successful, let's throw dollars at that. Let's let and I think the conservancy would be completely for that. I guess I won't put words in Jamie's mouth, but I hope he comes up and says what he thinks about that, and that would be fantastic.
Any other council people have comments before we ask the audience?
Oh, Scott, you've got to have something.
I have some. I mean, that's very interesting, John. And you're really trying to give people the ability to express their preference on what happens with the money. So there's a couple of things. So remember in 2021, when this agreement was reached and whatever the reasons why it came to 50-50 from 95.5, that we're really discussing what we're going to do, what would be appropriate if the levy passed, what would be appropriate for the next 5 years. And no one was doing these invasive, easy for me to say, invasive species remediation had not started in 2021. Nobody had any idea. All the information that the mayor gave us about the cost of what's happening in the properties, that's all something that has been learned since that time. Do we think the village should be involved? I mean, quite honestly, and speaking from a little bit of experience with the conservancy, it's hard the village has people that can help when it's needed. We've got our service department crew, which are outstanding, and the conservancy. I think someone once told me the Pope has no armies, and so it's kind of the conservancy has to hire it out, and
But they would have to come to us first for that.
Say again?
Wouldn't they have to come to us first for if there was a contract involved?
Well, I think that is what's happening, and I can't speak to the interplay between the tree canopy committee and the conservancy, but I think they're trying to work out the separate duties, and that's reflected in this split, that the conservancy is going to carry a little more of the water on this, and that they should get a little more money to help carry that water on that effort.
Let me address that, Scott. So on that note, think about this. That's pretty cool. We have some conservancy funds right now, so we can build up some, we can take some of that, put it into that pot right now and say, find whoever we used if we thought they were good. I couldn't even pretend to know how to find a person like that, but find somebody and let's get this done. And it's something I don't think any resident would say, oh my gosh, no, I really like the invasive species next to my property. They're going to all say yes to this as long as it's worded correctly. I think it's a win-win-win situation because we got some bucks and we, this is, pre-levy funds that we even have that we can throw at it and say, let's let them get a head start because, however long it takes to do, at least we're starting it. And I think that we'll all learn in the process, but go for it. If we allocate this that fund, now you got to use it for invasive species.
Right. And I mean, I think that is happening, and I would expect that as that program expands, as it's going to have to, that's going to continue to take resources. If the Conservancy is carrying more of the weight on that, it's going to require a larger expenditure. And the village, the one thing that the mayor said is that traditionally the village hadn't done a lot. He's not thinking back as far as I'm thinking. There's been a lot of work. I mean, most of the trees that we see in the village, I mean, they were planted at some point. There were not a lot of trees. The way the place looks has been the product of a lot of work by people over many, many years, and in some cases, a lot of money to get it that way. One of the things that John, that I had always thought about in one of our conversations was the idea that the levy funds were with the village and not with the Conservancy. And I know originally that was one of your concerns. And I've been thinking about the language of our levy, and we can't change this language or we lose the rollback. But protecting and preserving the land, and I know the village has some stormwater issues that, quite frankly, have been caused by building. We concentrate water into areas, and it either floods, or if we don't provide appropriate maintenance, it definitely floods and it wipes out the land. It's kind of akin to managing for a fire. If you're picking up detritus and you're making sure there's not a lot of fuel for fires, then the woods stay that way even if there's a fire. If you leave it all, although some you have to leave it in its natural state, but you have to have a management plan. And I think the funds, whether they're with the Conservancy or with the village, I mean, I think there's any number of uses that fit within the language of the levy. And so the village having accumulated that money, John, I mean, I can tell you what my personal preference is we ought to do with the money, but my personal preference is unimportant here. I think there are purposes for that it could legitimately be spent for. So I don't struggle with that as much. I mean, I'm not totally wedded to a 95.5 or 100.0, because I think there are purposes the village can use some of those funds that complement what the Conservancy is doing. So, now.
Well, let me ask you. Can I ask you a question? Okay.
The one thing about the bucket thing is the Conservancy has to have the ability to plan, and so a potential land acquisition sometimes happens quickly, and the people come and there are competitive bidders, and you have to be able to say, yes, we can make that happen, or no, we can't. You have to do it quickly. The other thing is on conservation easements, I believe, and I can't tell you the track record on it, that a lot of those happen at the end of the year. Being in my business, I see that a lot of people wait, and Karen, you might see this too. I don't know if you're busy in December. They wait until December 15th to try to make a tax plan that involves gifts to charity or things to charities, and you will see the greatest chaos of confirmation letters and things going, and that's what always causes hitches in the get along, is a confirmation letter gets forgotten and everyone goes out of town for New Year's Eve, and then there's no confirmation letter. So So a lot of times the opportunities that present themselves for conservation easement donations or purchases, you have to be able to move quickly. So you have to have some dry powder, I believe is how Nat usually likes to say it. You have to have some dry powder. That's for any organization, not just the Land Conservancy, anyone. I mean, if there's one thing you could wish in the planning part of my practice, and I'm gonna, Karen, you wouldn't be telling the truth if you didn't say in your practice that people would start a little earlier. It would make your life easier. So I think having the Conservancy have a larger share of the funds probably helps the Conservancy accomplish their goal when those goals require short time periods.
If the goal was only for purchasing, so that would be one of the things that I've always heard you say is that you run on a threadbare budget and everybody does everything, with no money. I don't think I could convince Nat or Jamie right now in any way, shape, or form to hire an accounting person or an accounting firm, a bookkeeping, not accounting, bookkeeping firm, unless I put something into a fund. And if they put that in a fund, and then suddenly, we go, hey, we'd really like you to have someone specific for that, and here's a fund. It kind of puts the onus on them to say, all right, we're going to do that, because this is the only organization I've ever seen that I'm actually saying spend money. I've never said that to any other nonprofit. I actually am saying I would like, and the invasive species things, I really want them personally to do that. I want them personally to do that. So my $50 is going to go into that bucket, saying, I want you to do this. And if given no constraints of buckets, I believe that all the money will just sit as dry powder waiting for the next purchase. And I think that that's probably where some of the animosity goes back and forth, going back and forth. Well, how much land is too much and how much is too little? Well, there's probably not a right answer to that, but they should definitely have something for invasive species mitigation.
Well,
So,
true. And remember, at the Conservancy of the land protected, and Jamie, I will ask you to correct me here. Of the 700 acres protected, about 300 are fee-owned properties and 400 or so are conservation easements. So those are properties still owned by other people that are subject to a conservation easement. Am I close? And so it's not always just acquiring land. Again, the majority of the transactions have been conservation easements. And again, I say that a lot of times those wait until the last minute and they've got to be ready to go.
Right. So John, a couple, are you?
Yeah,
You okay, Scott? So John, I love the way you think. I love your creativity, and that's what we need. We're trying to think outside the box and come up with a good resolution here. And I love the idea of the different buckets that residents could have some input into, because it may in some ways help to promote the Land Conservancy
Yes.
in the community, and that's a good thing. The downside for me might be, the extent to which we are kind of imposing our will on a separate organization, a separate 501c3 organization. So I'm a little concerned.
But we do get to do
about
that, and we shouldn't be afraid of that, because it is a tax money, and we do get to do that. So we do get to react to people. I just don't know how to get enough input from the entire community to say, hey, what does everybody want? So this was my first go at trying to figure that out. But like it or not, we do get to do that.
Okay, and we can get some other legal opinions about that. With regard to the trees, and I just learned this recently, a little bit of history. I prepared a presentation for the Garden Club for their member guest event this past weekend, and I learned that Crispin Ogleby in the early and late 1920s brought hundreds of dogwood trees here to the village, and that was followed in the 1930s by WPA, who brought truckloads of non-employed workers from Cleveland to plant over 8,000 trees, which is kind of the beginning of the burgeoning of the, you know, of the this round of trees in the, you know, in the village. So that I thought was kind of interesting, because before that, a lot of them were taken down by the sawmills, which was one of the big industries here in the 1830s. So anyway, going forward from that, a couple of other points, Scott, that you made, and John, you were talking about, and one is about the purchase or the acquisition of fee-owned properties. I believe in the last 4 years, the only two really that were purchased, one was the K. Perkins, and the second was paying off the debt on the Clark property. So not a lot, and I think and probably Craig could speak to this about over the years, kind of what the decline has been in the purchase of properties. I still say, however it's done, if the village was involved in allocating money for that, and there was a purchase coming up, you know, we have executive session, and I think that's worked pretty, you know, pretty successfully. And I guess at this moment, that's probably all I have to offer.
Yeah. So from a historical standpoint, I think it's important to, look at kind of the last 7 or 8 years in terms of where the Land Conservancy and the village have been and where they are. So I'll go back to July of 2019. This was the Gates Mills Land Conservancy presentation to council. And I'm reading from the minutes of that meeting. The Conservancy would like one more 5-year levy. The future of the Gates Mills Land Conservancy work will show a pullback in land transactions. The focus will be on educational opportunities, working with the village and participating in nature conserving events. This is 2019, 2 years before the change in the agreement. This is the May 2021 update to council from the Land Conservancy. The future appears to be a turning point for the Conservancy's objectives. The Conservancy has perhaps served its role from 33 years ago. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but that's what was said. The objective is less acquiring properties, but to use what they have for education and stewardship opportunities. Members of the Conservancy have been talking more about stewardship rather than acquisitions. We go to June of 2021, where there's discussion of what the proposed split will be. July of 2021, it's a goal of the Land Conservancy in the next 5 years to be in a position to go forward in a stewardship mode and not need another levy. So those are what I pulled from minutes on a historical basis. If I go back to the late 1980s and early 90s, the 95-5 split, what was there for a reason, because the Land Conservancy didn't have any land yet, and the goal was to acquire land. If we look at on a historical basis, I went back, and these are rough numbers here. There were about 14 acquisitions from 89 to 2000, 1989 to 2000, 10 acquisitions from 2000 to 2010, and 4 acquisitions in the last 6 years. Again, these are all rough numbers. So I think the pace of land acquisition has slowed, and what I have a tough time with is we're at a 50-50 split now, and part of that was to get the Land Conservancy with an endowment set aside, and in their May meeting, there was actually a pro forma that was put together that $700,000 would throw off $20,000 or $30,000 in income on a draw basis, potentially more, to help fund the operating expenses of the Land Conservancy. So with all that being said, I'm concerned. We've had a lot of turnover in the village in the last 10 years. I worry that people take the Land Conservancy for granted, and all the work that's been done over the last 35, 40 years to have the village look the way it does today, and people want to move here and live here because of the thoughtfulness and the work that was done 40 years ago. And so I kind of have, in my mind, things bucketed out maybe a little bit differently, and I don't want to be too prescriptive to the Land Conservancy. That's the role of the board to come up with their strategic plan. But I think there should be an endowment. That's up for the Land Conservancy to decide what that is. This is now the second time in 5 years that this levy has brought discussion more than just a normal 7-0 vote without much discussion. I don't know what the next 5 years brings, but I think there should be something set aside. 700,000 is probably not enough. Maybe it's more, but that would fund the Land Conservancy into perpetuity. Defense of easements of property, put land acquisition aside, maintaining property, invasive stewardship, whatever that number is, restricted funds that are only to be used for the operations of the Land Conservancy. The agreement 2021, I view it more as collaboration between the village and council, that they come to council. I mean, there is nothing in that agreement that says that they have to get the permission of council. But it is more designed to create some collaboration. So in council, you typically have the chair of planning and zoning. You typically have another member that's in planning and zoning that may know what's going on with certain residents or asking for variances on parcels that may be adjacent to something Land Conservancy is talking about. So I don't see anything wrong with that piece in there. And I think to Sandra's point, I think the executive session works well for, there were some concerns about not being able to negotiate in public, and we've had those conversations, and they can certainly continue going forward. So the last piece in all this is I look at as you can see, a lot of this is data. The last piece is what the pass rate of the Land Conservancy levy has been. 2011, it was 68%. 2016, it was 67%. In 2021, it was 74%. So what caused 7 or 8 or 10% of the residents that historically voted against the Land Conservancy to now decide they want to vote for it? So my thought in all of this is, I was just coming onto council. I came onto council in July of 2021 when this agreement was being discussed. I think it's sound. I think it's a good starting point for negotiation with the Land Conservancy, and with the split and some of the provisions in there. And I just don't think we should be too prescriptive in telling the Land Conservancy how to run their organization. But I do think there are certain things that we can certainly help with from an oversight standpoint, from the viewpoint of taxpayers and residents, some of which I have heard from that are not in favor of the Land Conservancy. And I think some of these things helped bring a little bit more collaboration between the village. There's more communication going on, and maybe some of those residents feel like council and the Land Conservancy are working together on these things, and the money isn't just going into a charity somewhere where I don't have a say or I don't have any view of what's going on.
I have a question. Did you have a question? Okay. Are you saying then that you would support a continuation of the 2021 agreement that's going to expire at the end of the...
I'm saying that should be the starting point.
Okay.
For discussion, in my opinion.
And do you think that there should be any changes to that agreement?
That's up for the other six people to decide. I just think that's given what went on 5 years ago, given the fact that it's now August. And I worry a little bit about having a 1-year agreement, because I think it's really tough to plan around it changing every year.
Well, I think that the last discussion that we had, I said that that's something that I could support, but there would have to be some differences in that agreement. It couldn't be adopted just like it is now. And one of those differences, although it was contemplated last time that there be an endowment, that was never done by the Land Conservancy. So I would say that if we agreed to that, that would have to be a condition, that within a certain amount of time, that dollar amount be endowed and put on their 990 as an endowed program. The other thing that I would advocate is that this be the last levy that goes on the ballot. That would have to be in the 50-50 split for me. It's been ongoing for a long time. They have $1 million. They're going to get more if the levy goes on the ballot and if the levy passes. They're going to get more. They have plenty of time to plan for the eventuality that they have to be supported by their own donors.
Okay, this has been a good discussion.
I had a couple things. Sorry, I raised my hand, but it's probably hard to see facing the other way. Um, I have a few different views. I agree with some of what's been said, and maybe not some other things. But I think if there's anything that we've learned since 2021, it's that we don't know what will happen in the next 5 years, and so I think it's important that we leave ourselves with maximum flexibility for both us and for the Land Conservancy. We weren't talking about invasive removal in 2021. We hadn't done the comprehensive plan. The other thing that I really firmly believe is that we shouldn't be deciding what the voters. I guess we should be taking the decision away from the voters on the levy. The numbers Craig cited are, I think, emblematic of the support that the villagers have had for the levy and for the Land Conservancy. And while 2021 was a high year in the 70s, there were years earlier in the levy's history where it was also in the 70%. I think the lowest rates were when it first came on the ballot in the early 90s and when we did it under a special election in August one year. So I think the support we've seen from the village to me tells me that we need to be having these discussions about the agreement and the terms of the agreement and collaborating with the Land Conservancy on those. But that ultimately putting this on the ballot is really important. And then, the last thing I'll say, just as we enter the rest of the discussion, is I think regardless of the views that people have on the levy, it would be hard for any of us to argue that the way our village looks now, I think somebody said this earlier, is in a lot of parts to the mission that the Land Conservancy's had and the role that they've had and the collaboration they've had with the village's collaboration with them. And the way the village looks today is again a testament to that in terms of green space and conserved land. So with that in mind, I hope as we move forward with discussing the split and the terms of the operating agreement, that we just all remember that the Land Conservancy is a dedicated group of 15 volunteer residents that have really committed to a mission. And the same is true of everybody around that table. We're all resident volunteers. So I just hope as we move forward with this discussion that we do so with respect, for each other and those volunteers' commitment to the village and the time and effort that they've put forward. And that we're not coming from a place where we're assuming bad intentions or questioning each other's integrity.
Just I want to comment. For me, I guess before we discuss among each other what we just said, I'd like to hear from David because you haven't made any comment yet.
None of us here know exactly what the villagers want. And in that sense, I think John's suggestion of a way to poll people is clever and helpful. I'm concerned that it would reduce the flexibility of the Conservancy, and I'm not quite sure how to address that. I think these conversations are terrific, as contentious as they are. To have the opportunity to hear both sides elevates the solution. But finally, and circling back to my initial comment that none of us here really know what the villagers want, I think we have to let them decide. And regardless of whether or not we believe in the levy or the mission of the conservancy, this needs to go on the ballot. And those in favor of both sides have their opportunity to campaign, and we let the villagers decide.
What do you think about? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, two final thing, two things for me real quick. Todd, can we put I think I asked this before and you said yes, we can put a whereas at the end of the levy that says what our proposed, if we were to agree tonight on a split or some methodology to go forward, we could put that at the end of the levy, correct?
Talking about the ballot issue?
Yeah, so I think you said that we can add a whereas, we can add to it, but we can't change the words that are in place already.
Well, we can put recitals certainly in an ordinance.
Oh.
But it can't deviate from what language you're proposing as a charter amendment. And we have to keep the charter amendment the same, otherwise could be deemed to be a new levy, a new charter amendment with a new levy, which defeats the rollback. That's pretty significant.
What's a recital?
A recital?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were talking about the whereas clauses
The whereas clauses, yeah.
in a piece of legislation, which have no legal effect whatsoever.
Oh, cool. Okay. But they do educate the voter.
No, well, it's not on the ballot.
Oh.
It won't appear on the ballot, no.
Oh,
So
shoot.
because any legislation that would place the issue on the ballot, we don't even have to have recitals in it. Actually, we just have to have an ordinance or resolution that sends the issue to the Board of Elections with proposed, and I do emphasize proposed ballot language because the final say is by the Secretary of State. Now, for 35 years, the Secretary of State has approved this same language, and the Board of Elections has also weighs in on that before it's sent to the Board of to the Secretary of State. So we're only proposing language which is exactly the same and has been for 35 years.
So, John, I think what John is saying, the whereas clause is in the ordinance.
Right.
They do not then appear in the ballot. The
Right.
ballot
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was,
Right.
what I said.
Yeah.
Got it. Yes. Yes. Okay. So that's and we can get that out to the public, whatever we have before, if we were to hypothetically solve this issue right here in terms of right here, right now, because I think this is by the way, Megan, I know that I think that someone threw out contentious or something. This is probably my favorite conversation I've had at council. It's where I actually feel useful. Like everyone is coming together and talking. So this is one of my favorites, even though the topic is tough. But what I was thinking is if we did come to an agreement right now, because we've just had a lot of discussion, if we did come to an agreement, we could at least educate the voters before this got to the ballot so that they would know what the split was going to be.
That's correct, and that's how it's been done in the past. I believe in 2021, probably in August or September of that year, and I'd have to go back to look, is the council first earlier voted to put the issue on the ballot, and then
In August.
and then almost the same time approved an agreement, obviously contingent on the issue passing in November, so that those voters knew what was contemplated. Here, you don't have that on the ballot now or on the agenda this evening for the split, but certainly that could be done at your September meeting and discussed, debated at that time, passed at that time. It would require 5 votes to do it with one reading. but also could be done in October, I suppose. It's a couple of weeks before the election, so
Well,
hope that's helpful.
in many of the prior, uh, ordinances and then resolutions, they were done after.
Right.
Well, they were
Mhm.
done after.
And
So,
1 was after, 96 was after, 92 was before, 2006 was after, 2011 was after, 2016 was after.
yeah. So what was unique?
Yeah, I don't like the
about-
after.
Yeah, but what was unique about 2021 was, again, the change in the distribution,
Mhm.
which we felt people needed to know in advance. But, you know, I'm not advocating doing it after we approve putting it on the ballot, but it has been done, so. Getting to the point that you made a moment ago about, you know, this being the last levy. If council has the kind of discussion that we're having now in 5 years, I think they could decide what was needed at that point. And, you know, for us to be prescriptive now about what should happen in 5 years, I couldn't support that. You know, I heard on the news that this summer, we'll look back on this summer as the coolest summer in recent history. And if that's the case, we're going to be looking for all of the trees we possibly can and all the water we possibly can. You know, we don't know what the circumstances are going to be in 5 years. And I think the levy, and I'm not saying that you said this, but, you know, the levy money is the village money, and it goes for what the Land Conservancy does and what the village does. So I don't, I took a little bit of what you said to mean cutting back on the money to the conservancy, but it would also cut back on money to the village. So I wouldn't be able to support that.
Well, all I would say to that is that 5 years ago, according to the people that I've talked to who were actually in the room, that was what was intended, that was going to be the last time. The problem with 5 years
Yeah,
is that a lot of us may not be on council the next time,
right.
which may be a good or bad thing, but, you know, you tend to forget, like people forgot what happened 5 years ago. And so that's why I would say, I think it's time for a new day and a new way to keep the conservancy solid and have enough money to go forward with whatever they need to do, but not continue to rely on taxpayers to do it. And this has been from the very beginning, my thinking. And give them a runway to start to do what charities do, and that is to raise their own money. So that would have to be in the agreement.
Well, Karen, on that, so years, and I'm gonna just pick numbers and I won't pick the 2080. I'll just pick 75-25. What if at the end of 5 years, you know, there was that it would flip, that it would be 75-25 or, and that way the residents don't lose out on the rollback rate on the levy. You know, the levy would be approved, but it would be 75-25, and the village would be collecting 75%, using it for this protecting and preserving, controlling stormwater runoff, or doing things. I mean, would that,
If
and it would still leave a little, the administrative bucket that John mentioned, it would still leave that administrative flow. But it would, you know, the lion's share of the funds would be going to the village, to being used for purposes that would fit within the levy. And I see Todd's scrunching his nose at me, so.
But it's going to be very difficult to bind future councils.
Right.
Now, and then you said it, you know, at the end of the 5 years, well, the levy's gone at the end of 5 years unless it's renewed
Right.
through a charter amendment.
Right.
by the voters. So
I mean, that's,
does it make sense to have a shorter than a 5-year agreement with the Land Conservancy to try to accomplish some of these things that you're talking about? 4 to 5 years ago, after the last levy passed, we had some significant stormwater projects. One of them was the Mayfield Road culvert. We had some riverbank projects where we had to have matching funds for grants
Right.
to shore up along the river. And tonight, you'll hear from our village engineer, a laundry list of projects related to stormwater, which would conserve the land, preserve the land, restore the land from needed stormwater projects, and who knows what type of riverbank projects we're going to have going forward. And they're all expensive. And we're not going to get those funds from the federal government that we got during COVID time. We do have the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District Stormwater Community Cost Share funds through their program, but we're using up almost $200,000 of that now at the moment. An old mill, right? And so there's going to be some significant projects that I gave a legal opinion 3, 4, 5 years ago about this and what they could be used for. And we did use those for it. Actually, tonight we have something on the agenda, $35,000 for an emergency stormwater project for a culvert. The state auditor has accepted my legal opinion on this, has not questioned it. They usually don't. Just keep that in mind, that those are the types of projects that will be coming up all the time.
listen, I lost my stormwater right down my driveway, so all in one night, boom, gone. Because ultimately, I mean, ultimately you have the idea that maybe, we leave it to a vote of the voters to say, you want to have it on the ballot again or not. But I guess the way to do it is by putting it on the ballot.
Oh, no, it's my opinion, it should absolutely be on the ballot. I mean, that's, council voted, put this charter amendment on the ballot, and it's up to the voters to decide when it comes off, in my opinion.
Yep.
100% agree.
Yep.
I suggest we had 2 or 3 people in the audience that were going to have a comment, that this would be a good time to do that. Is that all right with everyone? Barbara, I think you were one. Sean, I think you had a comment. I don't know if anyone else.
Chris is just.
Oh, Chris?
Staying out of it. If I had a long conversation with one of the conservancy trustees or board members or whatever you are designated as, it's my understanding that the conservancy can purchase land regardless of the village's position with respect to the purchase. And that's what I just don't see, that it's the conservancy's role to decide the future of the village if they have that much power to purchase land, tie it up. The interest could be in contravention of what we want to do as a village as a whole. So I think that council should have control of most of the funds. And I've heard this thing that we have to act quickly. Act in haste, regret at your leisure. Because like you guys keep saying, 5 years from now, you have no idea which direction this village is going to take. And by allowing the conservancy to have that large of a say
Microphone. Yeah, there.
in the future, I'm concerned about that. I support the levy. I will vote for it, but I think it's your job. You were elected to just, sort of decide how taxpayer money is going to be spent. You're elected to decide what's best for the village. And I view it, if you give all the money to the conservancy or a large portion of it, to me, it's an abdication of what the village itself should be doing. The only other thing I would add to this, because it's been a long night, there's been a lot of viewpoints expressed. I do think everybody's acting from concern for the village. I very much appreciate the volunteer nature of the mayor's office. I have lived that, and council. So I get that. And I also think there could be a portion of this that's sort of like it's easier to let the conservancy handle this. And I'm sympathetic to that. I just don't think it's the right answer. And then finally, I think best practices dictate that the village control the money. I have an easement on my property. You don't trust me. I don't blame you. You come every year and want my property because you do not want to rely on my representation that I'm complying with the easement. That's all I'm asking. I trust the conservancy, but trust and verify. Okay, thank you. That's
Thank you, Chris.
Chris?
Jerry?
It's Jerry Bowman. So, it's a little ironic we're talking about some of these issues because Dan Callister, a couple days after he's passed away, because
Could you go closer to the microphone, please?
Dan Callister was literally the father of the Land Conservancy in Gates Mills. And
He's watching over you tonight, by the way.
I'm sorry.
He's watching over you tonight.
Well,
Dan?
I worked with him on the Hill ordinance, the first Hill ordinance with your former partner. A whole year of struggling to write that ordinance, which is unique in this part of the country anyway. The tree ordinances, this all in the Land Conservancy, the aggressiveness that it took on. Tom Quintel, Dan Collister, Connie White, Tom Liederbach. I mean, this is like the who's who of the village. And the Conservancy has done a wonderful job and it's been awarded repeatedly nationally. There are major issues that are facing the village over the next X years. Chris Courtney is going to talk about water runoff. There is nothing that's more important for water runoff than a forest. There really isn't. And so to the extent that there's more development, not to exclude it, but to try to manage it, it's really important. And the Land Conservancy is an effective tool for allowing that, making that happen. It isn't really broken. So I think we should give it the benefit of what it's earned. And if we want to monitor it more closely, which I think is a good idea, particularly with the greater interest by the council itself with the tree canopy committee, you're going to have to work closer together and more vigorously together. But I think I think we owe them sort of a clear channel. I would point out two other things. That the last two indications from the voters was the last election with the 75%, which I'm pretty sure in my own mind that the reason it was such a high vote for it was kind of a rebellion against some pressure that they thought the council put on the Land Conservancy unfairly. My opinion, but I believe that's what happened. The second issue is the comprehensive plan. If you read the preamble, I mean, it basically says the Land Conservancy is leading the charge for what the comprehensive plan says the villagers want. So we've got all kinds of signals that the villagers want the Land Conservancy, the effort, not necessarily perfected the way they want to do it, but primarily to support what they're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. Sean?
Hi, good evening. I'm Sean O'Hagan. Thanks for giving me a minute or two. I'll try to be quick. And thanks for all of the care and thoughtfulness that folks have been bringing to this discussion this evening. I appreciate the excitement. This has been, I think, the most enjoyable conversation in this cycle for me to listen to. And I think, as most everybody in the room, probably the dog, appreciate the extent to which Gates Mills has a history of centering its actions and its investments around conserving our natural environment, while acknowledging this is for our enjoyment, the right thing to do, and yes, a sound investment in our property. I also have a really healthy respect for expertise and a really good respect for council and your role. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that kind of the arc of this cycle of these discussions this year indicates, I think, an increased interest in making sure from council that our dollars are well utilized. And frankly, I find it a little frustrating, but also I appreciate it. And as I think about it, I think it's reflecting this shift that we're talking about in what the mix of conservation activities are going to be in our community. And I think that's a really healthy thing. So I'm a little frustrated to be here, but I'm also excited that the conversation's happening. But again, I have a healthy respect for expertise. And I find myself thinking that part of what we've really benefited from in our village, it's amazing what the conservancy has done. I mean, it's amazing. And it's volunteers. You know, and I want to make sure, however we kind of make these decisions in the future, whether it's conservancy members or whoever, we should be making these decisions with input from expertise about how to invest in conservation. To my mind, in Gates Mills, that means talking to the conservancy folks, but like, you know, other issues that come before you in council, you talk to the expert, right? Whether it's, you know, the chief, if it's a safety issue, it's fire, like, you know, your colleagues over against that wall there, or other times that you have visitors come before you. And I just think, I think we've got to navigate this next 5 years. We've got to give the villagers the chance to vote on this levy. I think we have to understand that we are in this period where we can make good strategic investments in conservation and want to deploy our knowledge the best way we can right now while learning about what we're going to do better and how we're going to meet changing needs. Because like Sandra, you're totally right, they're going to change. And then I think the real challenge for this council and likely future councils is, how do you get a cadence of understanding what that means? What does that mean as council to kind of have effective oversight, informed, effective oversight about what that mix of conservation activities should be? I don't know. I want citizens to be excited about it and to participate. But I also want to, if I think about the education learning curve for getting like citizen directed budgeting on this issue, I don't know. I don't know that I want that. I kind of like what we've been doing, but like I'm thinking about ways, I'm listening and thinking about what we could do differently. And I am thinking about your role as council, and I feel really confident and comfortable about what we should do in the next 5 years. I think we should pass the levy. I think y'all should figure out an informed balance for the agreement. But then also, let's do that business. Let's do the other work of the village, all volunteers. And then let's start thinking about, how is council really going to be positioned to make informed decisions in the future about this? Because it's going to be dynamic. I think it's going to be, increasingly important that we spend conservation dollars in a strategic and insightful way. And I think that's going to get harder for council to wrap their head around. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
I love your enthusiasm too, Sean.
Chris, don't leave.
Which you bring a lot. Thank you. And you know, to your point, I'm just thinking as you were talking on the architectural
Go ahead.
review board, we've got architects who provide consulting. We're going to be using an arborist who's going to help also on the architectural review board. And you know, a possibility is maybe the mayor has 5 appointments to the Land Conservancy, maybe someone who is an arborist or someone who is a conservation specialist. So it adds to the expertise that the Land Conservancy has. That may be something that we want to think about too, or that the mayor wants to think about.
So I have something I just, Chris's comments, brought up. We should probably talk. You got me thinking. You know, one of the things about the conservancy and the village and the council that kind of works is, you said about the Land Conservancy controlling the direction of the village or
Well, I don't think it does. I don't want that to happen.
right, is that if the existence of the levy provides a little check and a balance, that if the conservancy goes off the rails and does something that council thinks, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, council could always hang on to the money and, I mean, there could be a fight. I mean, the money comes to the village first before it goes to them.
Well, yeah, well, then clarify that for me, because maybe I'm wrong. My understanding was the money was allocated under the one proposal, 80-20 to the conservancy. And then once it's at the conservancy, if they, hypothetically, let's say the chief's old house,
Right.
and that's a bit, let's say there's a piece of property in downtown Gates Mills.
Right.
Gideon's house, perhaps, is on the market and it's going to be sold. The seller is willing to entertain selling it to the conservancy. The village would like to have Gideon's house. But there would be no way to stop the conservancy from buying it over the village. And that is my concern, because as I understand the terms of the contract, they have complete, and that's fine if they have the autonomy to do so. I have no problem with the conservancy acting autonomously, but they are using taxpayer money for a position that may ultimately be contrary to the interest of the village as a whole.
Agreed.
And I love the conservancy. We donate. So I think we're confusing the
No,
issue
but you're
about
right.
controlling the money versus the objective of the organization. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why I'm saying is that if the conservancy goes off the rails, the village can, I mean, they can, I suppose they could even break check them in contravention of the agreement and say, look, we have the money, but you're not spending it for the right reasons. And
How do you get it back?
well,
you
you
don't
haven't
give
given
it?
it to them yet. I mean,
don't give it.
you,
What?
You don't give it.
yeah, you just don't give it in the first.
Well, listen, if
That
you're
would
telling
be-
me that there is a way to
I don't think there is.
ensure, I don't think there is either. I'd like to see
No.
the contract, read it and see.
I read the contract and and the 50-50 or the 80-20 or whatever it is, it's just that amount is allocated to them.
No, it's,
You can have any provisions you want in this contract as a village. We
right.
don't even have to give a cent
Right. That's
to
what,
the Land Conservancy, and you can give it to Chagrin River Watershed Partners
But-
if you wish, some of it, or you could keep 90% of it to do
Right.
conservation programs that the village wants to do and projects.
But
Mhm.
let
But
me-
once you sign the contract,
and that's exactly what I'm
And
saying.
I don't think you should be locked into this
Yeah.
80-20 or what's in the current agreement.
But let me.
That's something that we can hash out over the next month.
Right.
Let me finish it.
Yeah.
So, but then by the same token, if council goes berserk and says, you know, you have to do this or you have to do that, the conservancy, being an independent organization, can always say, hey, we're not going to do that. We know you're going to take our money away from us, but you
The
know.
difference is I can get rid of you as a voter.
That's right.
Right.
They're
Oh,
Not elected.
I mean, I'm not trying to be coy, but
But-
the difference is that the public checks what the council does. There's no public check of taxpayer money with the conservancy,
But then,
other than through you.
and then for the conservancy, I mean, I doubt that if there is a higher and better use of a property and someone's willing to pay a lot of money for it, I don't think the conservancy has ever been the highest bidder on a property.
I get that.
It usually it's a bargain purchase, usually, you know, or it's a conservation easement. The thing is, it gives the people in the village the option, if they're conservation minded, it gives them a village centered option as opposed to giving it to Western Reserve Land Conservancy.
Can I address that before we get too far away from it?
Yeah.
I believe, and anybody on council can correct me if I'm wrong, we still have that option if they're required to get council approval. I think it could be done quickly. I think that the idea that there couldn't be a meeting called, hey, there's this perfect piece of property, we want to, it's great for the village, we want to do it, can you guys just pre-approve it? I don't see that as to your point, you can put that in the contract. I don't think it's a big ask, honestly.
Yep.
Anyhow.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. Like we said, we're all working in the same place. Nobody wants the conservancy to go away. Nobody wants it not to be supported. I, in my opinion, would like my elected officials to have some say in how taxpayer dollars are spent, and I don't think it would be that part of a provision to include in the contract. So I know it's getting late and
Thank you. Barb, you had a comment?
It's just real quick. I appreciate Sean's comments because I've been hearing so much discussion and everybody's going back and forth about how to solve this problem of the split and what the money's going to be spent on. But nobody's really defined what conservation is for Gates Mills over the next 5 years. And I don't care whether the Conservancy does it. I think they do great work. I think there is an oversight responsibility with the council since it's taxpayer funded. But I think somebody needs to come up with some kind of general definition of what conservation funding for the next 5 years is going to include. And, you know, I keep hearing about land acquisition. Is that really something that's going to promote the conservation we need in the village? I don't know the answer to that, but I think there's got to be a comprehensive understanding of that amongst the council members and amongst the leadership in the conservancy, because supposedly they're working together on it. And I just don't hear that. I don't hear it. You know, and there was, you know, we did all this citizen engagement and everybody agrees that we want the community to stay the way it is. It's not going to if we don't do anything. We know that. And it may not do as well as it needs to do going forward if we don't know what needs to happen. And I really feel like there's some missing pieces in the communication on that right now. I really do.
Thank you. So I think we can improve the communication. We've had 4 pilot programs that have been well advertised for 2 years. We've got the Fellow Field, the Arboretum, the Chagrin River Road property, the Metro Parks north of Mayfield. People have seen the signs, they've seen the burnout.
I've been at all the meetings. I understand that. That's what's happening now. But I haven't heard about how this all overlays with decision-making between the 2 entities
Okay.
for the next 5 years. And I'm just asking you to consider that, like, does everybody agree on what the definition of conservation for this village is?
I think that's a fair point. We can work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Are there any other comments? I think, Jamie?
Just very quick comment. I just wanted to say, I can't speak in terms of agreements or anything like that, because that's, you know, we don't have a quorum and we need to discuss that from a board point of view. But one thing I can commit to is that we find very valuable is the ongoing collaboration and coordination with the council and other members of the community. I mean, I think that over the last 5 years, that's been something, you know, I came on board after the last levy was passed. I think that's something that's been a focus. I think it's been really positive and been really helpful. So I think that we can definitely commit to that. I think shared accountability, your accountability to us, and then our accountability, kind of yours to back to us, I think is really helpful. And then lastly, I would just make a point of, I think that as we have the conversation further, just keeping an eye on simplicity and clarity, so that as we move forward, we all are understanding what are, we're working towards, what are we being measured on, and making it so it's manageable, so that, as people come and go, we're all on the same page going forward. So that is my main points, and I appreciate all the comments.
Thank you. And let me just say on behalf of the village, we appreciate the collaboration because it's been a good relationship between the Conservancy, the Tree Canopy Committee, and a lot of other individuals, especially our outside partners. We've done more collaborating with the Conservancy in the last 2 years than we've done in 10 years before that. So a lot of that is your attitude too, so thank you. I think we've covered this from a lot of different angles, and I appreciate everyone's comments. I would suggest if I could have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of taking some legal advice with regard to this issue.
Moved.
Second.
I'm not sure that we need to if we take a motion ahead of time. And then I don't think we need to go into executive session. And I think Todd can clarify if that's the case. If the motion comes under, if I make a motion to make sure I have the words right.
Well, we've got a motion. There's a motion on the floor, John. I don't want to cut you off, and Todd and Todd's agreed with my suggestion that we ask for this at this point.
Okay, but we can discuss going into executive session because I don't know what the reason is for going into executive session. So
Todd will tell you. Todd?
Yes, I believe it's important.
Can't hear you.
Turn on your mic.
Important for me to give the council, give the mayor legal advice, confidential legal advice on the issues that have been raised this evening, okay? And some other issues that have been raised around the levy issue, the charter amendment issue, and the levy that's part of that charter amendment. So it's my advice that I give you that legal advice, and of course, in executive session.
Any other comment on that? John or Megan? If not, roll call.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
No.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Okay, here's how this will work. We didn't know if we would be in this or not, but here's the provisions. Mike is here and he will pause the council meeting. So, because we can't cut off the council meeting, then start again, then have another Zoom session. We'll recess into the little ante room there, and John and Megan will be able to join by phone. The phone connection is already set up. So we'll have all 7 council members participating. We can't have 2 Zooms going on at the same time. Otherwise, that would be kind of neat, but beyond our capability. When we come back from executive session, then we'll turn the Zoom capability back on. Okay? So, John, I know Megan and you, I think, talked to Mike earlier today, and I think you guys have the call-in number for the phone, correct?
We do. Oh, they were going to call us. Do you want us to call in?
Mike's calling them.
Mike is calling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll be with you in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Good evening. We're back in session. I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Young.
I'd like to introduce a motion to suspend the third reading of ordinance 2026-31. Withdraw. Thank you. I've been made aware that actions contrary to the Open Meetings Act were part of the process in developing our recommendation to council, and that this may call into question the appropriateness of voting on the ordinance at this time. So I move that we withdraw the third reading and action on this ordinance today.
Is there a second?
Thank you. Withdrawn from the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I can't start my video.
Hold
We can
on.
hear you, John.
That's interesting. It says disabled by the host.
Mike is taking a look at it.
There we go.
You okay, John?
I am.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
UNESCO,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe there's a motion coming from Mr. UNESCO.
Mayor, I move that council waive the attorney-client privilege as to the law director's memorandum of August 12th, 2026, and direct that it be made available to the public.
Is there a second on the motion? There's no second on the motion. The motion dies as a result of no second. I understand Mr. Broom has a motion.
I make a motion that we schedule a special council meeting for the purpose of considering an ordinance to place the charter amendment on the ballot for the November election, and that we schedule that special council meeting prior to September 4th, 2026.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Sandra? Is that you? Was that you? Yes, Sandra. Discussion on the motion? Craig?
Scott, maybe there should be a reference. I know we said charter amendment, but the land conservancy levy specifically, that there's.
The charter amendment for the land conservancy.
The land conservation levy.
And conservation levy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have a second? Yes. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
UNESCO,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for our extended conversation on this matter. Let's move to, we're going to go to the road program.
Wow.
Okay, you want to, Chris, give us a quick update? I'll pass out this sheet while you're doing that. I'm just given the time of day, it's 8 o'clock.
I can make this sheet available to anybody who would like to see it. In fact, I'll just go ahead and email it.
Chris, it's really hard to hear you, Chris. I don't know if the mic's on.
Long story short, we've completed the heavy lifting of the road program this year. We have some minor striping, some road edge restoration, and then the completion of the road edge drainage system on Colvin to complete, along with drive apron work. And right now we sit about $100,000 under budget. The remaining work will be completed under $100,000, so we'll be able to bring it in on or under budget for the year. If anybody has any questions on any specifics, I can certainly answer them. Thank
Okay,
you.
I think that's it. Thank you. There was a little bit of noise last week, valid noise on Colvin with all the heavy rains. The rains came down Colvin because it had been just re-cemented and the storm drains and the drive aprons hadn't been completed, and once or twice washed out all the gravel, made it not a pleasant road to drive on. So we've refilled the gravel once or twice, I think, using heavier gravel, and the guys and the teams will be working over the next 2 weeks to get that street done.
Yep, I walked it and came up with outlined a very detailed drainage plan that the contractor will be installing that will resolve any and all problems that have happened over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Next item up is the financial report. Mr. Spear?
All right, I'm gonna pick up the pace here. A couple of observations regarding the financials. The real estate tax numbers are lower than anticipated. In July 2025, we collected 231,000, and in 2026, just 127. But in 2025, taxes were due on July the 15th. The legislature moved that up a month, so August 13th, so those numbers look fine. The income tax revenue continues to exceed the forecast. The treasurer would like to extend deep appreciation to the wage earners in this village. Keep it up, keep going, value yourself, ask for raises, keep working. Income tax is coming in higher than last year. I think that gap will continue. I think we're going to have a good surprise there. The third critical income component is speeding violations. By the end of July last year, our gross revenue was $846,695 this year, so a reduction of about 18%. And of course, that suggests that we're reducing speeding, and I think that's what's happening. I believe the September quarterly report will show a further decline due to the closing of Mayfield Road in July. That being said, the July revenue numbers look pretty good. And if you look at the report that John Onesco turns out, that's part of the police report, you'll see that we've gone from ticketing about 70% of the people who should get tickets to closer to 80% of the people who should get tickets. And so that's helping us out there. Other than that, it looks to me like we're probably going to be a little bit better than the budget on the expense line for the year, which will help us out. And that is my report as the treasurer, but now I'd like to report as the Heritage Home chairman, give you an update. There's a new lender that has been discovered by Heritage Home, PNC. It's not the 2% deal that we had before. It's it's 0.5% reduction in what their normal charge would be. So it's something. And I'll just give you a personal anecdote. I used the Heritage Home program as we jammed stuff through at the end of last year. And these people, I have to tell you, they're killers. If you're anything like me, a pushover, a patsy, you hire somebody, and if they do the work, yeah, they do the work. If they don't, you give them lemonade, thank them. The Heritage Home people come by, they look at their work, and they say, no, we're not paying, come back. And they brought them back to my house 2 separate times and demanded a quality work. So that's another feature of the Heritage Home program that people don't really think very much about. And that's it. I don't have anything else.
Chuck, I'll give you the name of my builder. Sailed right through.
Pardon?
I'll give you the name of my builder. Sailed right through.
Okay, all right.
Any questions for John on, Chuck on financial or treasury matters? A quick footnote to all of that. We have had some early discussions with the United States Postal Service regarding the post office. We have received a proposal through Jones Lang LaSalle, as we did 5 years ago, where they represent the post office but charge us for that fee. And but they have there was an increase in there that's decent. Chuck and I have also talked to someone on the other end of the spectrum who would be hired on a results-only basis with a guaranteed amount. That, though, might provide someone who's almost too aggressive with the Postal Service. So we're looking at yet picking someone that knows the postal landlord, postal tenant relationship business and see if we can find someone to help us negotiate that. We'll be back to you next month with that, if not sooner. Okay, clerk's report. Is there anything, Beth, that you care to share?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Police Chief Greg Minicello.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, everybody should have received a copy of my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Chief, I had a question come up on the form that asked how many flock cameras we had in the beginning and how many we have now.
Flock cameras?
Flock cameras.
Village-wide, we have 6 initially.
We had 5.
We had 5, and then.
Yep, I was right. That's all I needed. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all I needed.
On that topic, do you want to mention what we're doing with regard to looking at our policy vis-a-vis flock?
Yeah, there's been a lot of, if anybody's, kind of paying attention to the media and whatnot, and what's kind of going on in some of the other communities around the greater Cleveland area and nationwide for that. A lot of talk about the flock cameras and whatnot. We do have a policy. We went ahead and we took another look at it. It's an internal policy, of course. And we're working on completing that, doing that in-house here now. Sergeant Dave's been helping me out with that. And we're going to get that over to Todd, just kind of take a look at it upon completion, which should probably be sometime this week.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
so there's 6 cameras and they don't move?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So Chief, information from the flock cameras, does it go to a regional database or a national database?
It stays here. It's our data. It's a 30-day window. It's a 30-day look-back period.
Okay.
And it's purged after 30 days if we don't flag it for whatever reason. And, it's not like, anybody's like specifically sitting there looking at a camera. It's just, if we have a reason to, it's more of an investigatory tool. It's a tool, is what it is. And, there's been some, like we just had, I'm not sure it's on this report here now. We just had last week, just 2 weeks ago, actually. We had a hit skip on Berkshire near Woodstock. A vehicle went through a stop sign, took it down, 2 mailboxes, created some property damage to 2 homes. And, we were able to identify that vehicle. They fled. And it was a local contractor, and that's just, an example of, some good things that it's done for us. And in fact, the resident kind of came out, one of the, we'll call it the victims of the mailbox, owner of the mailbox. And, she asked me about it, and I told her, well, certainly take a look at it and whatnot. And she said, well, I personally would like to see more. I said, well, that's,
But it's
you want to do what you can do.
It's just our officers that are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, other communities, if law enforcement requests it, I mean, we can look at others and they can look at ours. Because we all work in concert with each other.
My understanding is that we own our data.
We own the
our
data.
cameras. We can limit or share what we want to with whomever we want to.
Okay, thank you.
And so is that in the policy that's being revised, how we handle our data?
Yes, it's all in there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We pretty much follow that policy now.
We do.
But with all that's happened with Flock, we're taking a look at the policy and updating it. And the chief will bring us any changes, so we're aware of those next month, right?
Okay, that would be really helpful.
Thanks.
And just one thing on the flock cameras, it's so hard to prove a negative. Everybody wants an assurance that nobody in the world is ever going to see this data in 20 years. And, by nature of how it's actually stored, it's purged after 30 days. But people want assurances that it's gone 3 years from now. And it's so hard to prove a negative. How do I tell people, like, well, I mean, that's the way computers work. And it makes it very difficult. And that actually is why Flock is in kind of a world of hurt right now, is because it's hard to prove a negative saying, no, we're actually following our own procedures and purging after 30 days, which is, it makes it sucky because a department that uses it as a legitimate crime investigatory tool takes the brunt of that, and because it's a very sensational and glamorous story to run, and unfortunately, it does do a lot of good, but it's so hard to argue against it. Or hard to argue against those that think there's more malevolent things going on.
And just, I'm sorry.
And John, the people that are complaining are driving around with their cell phone, with their smart car that's tracking everywhere they go and every place they go and every store they
I
enter,
try to
and
say that
storing it
all
for
the
forever.
time.
So don't
I
drive.
try to say that all the time, and it doesn't work.
And I think it's important just so everybody just kind of knows, there's a lot that kind of goes into it, but we have a full audit. We have access to an internal audit that's readily available. We can see who's doing what, with it, when, why, and how, and you have to put a reason in there. It has to be a law enforcement, I've done it, we all have done it. Sergeant Day usually does it more than everybody because he's usually following up on our primary cases and whatnot, but you have to put a reason in there, and it gives the date, the time, the reason, and, it's all right there.
Thank you, Greg.
Yep.
Next up, Dave Biggert, Service Department, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received my monthly report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
How did we survive the weather the last week and a half?
We did fine. A little tree damage, but we're kind of getting caught up on that now, so we should be good.
To our knowledge, anybody still out of power?
No,
Questions for Dave?
that concludes my report.
We have a couple homes that have high grass plus, and we're looking at those to make sure that they're either in compliance with the nuisance ordinance, or they'll get a phone call first from Dave, and then if that doesn't produce anything, there's usually a letter that follows, and that seems to get some action. Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You have a copy of my written report. I would like to add that we received the retirement of Lieutenant Daniel Dixon, who's been with the department for 24 years.
Please extend our appreciation for those 24 years of first fire service to us. Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, Scott, something caught your eye?
No question.
No? Okay. Thank you, Tom. Okay, next item up is, I believe we're on item 14. Third reading on an ordinance amending section 155 of the codified ordinances to eliminate the Treasury Investment Board. Let me give you a quick update on where we're at. I'll need Chuck and Todd to help. We've frankly just bounced around with this, and I sent my comments in last week to Todd. I don't think he's had a chance to reflect those yet. I reviewed those with Chuck. I believe he's in support of those. Karen, with your okay, I'd like to just hold this off for another month. Commit to bring you a revised Treasury Investment Board, including responsibilities of the people that would serve on that board. So if we ask them to serve, they know what's expected of them. And then at that point, decide whether you want to go forward with the motion to eliminate it or to keep it now that it's been reconstituted.
That's fine.
I'll move, we keep it on third reading. Do I need to do that?
What's that?
It just stays. I don't-
Stays on third reading.
All right.
Thank you.
Unless someone wants to withdraw it.
No.
Okay, next item, item 2026-38. This would be a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Site Works for the Chagrin River head wall repairs and the Carpenter Culvert repairs and declaring an emergency. And this would be, okay, Chris has got this. Chris, you want to explain those two, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. On Chagrin River Road, just south of the North Cemetery on the west side of the road, due to an erosion problem, we had a head wall that was undermined, and the head wall and the last section of large pipe, which I think is 48-inch pipe, tipped over, and part of the hillside is failing next to the road. So the Chagrin River Road portion of this is to take that out, redo the head wall, redo the last couple pipes, backfill the slope, and protect the road on an emergency basis. If we don't, we'll probably lose a portion of the road in the next couple months. And then on Carpenter, narrow road, one way in, one way out. We've got two culverts that go underneath the road. Again, an erosion-based problem. Both instances, the water's running around the outside of the pipes and carrying all the soil. The cement slabs are settling. So we want to be able to go in there on a temporary basis right now, pop the concrete off, do proper backfilling around the pipes to stop that for right now, and then look at replacing both of them next year. Again, both an emergency basis. The contract would be an extension of the work that we're already doing with Site Works, who finished up the bridge abutments and the Arboretum stairs. They've done a terrific job making use of their time and effort. They're still in town to do the old mill storm sewer repair, so we're kind of getting an economy of scale with them.
So I move we suspend the rules for resolution number 2026-38.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Any discussion on that item? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco. Onesco,
Yes, couldn't get back to the screen.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner, Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
And move that we approve resolution number 2026-38, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute contract with Site Works Unlimited LLC for the Chagrin River head wall repairs and the Carpenter culvert repairs and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner, Young.
Yes.
Okay, are we up to item 16, the motion to bid 519 Battles Culvert Replacement?
Yeah.
You want to explain that one, Chris?
Yes, the service department encountered a sinkhole in Battles Road on the edge of the road right by 519, which is right around the 90-degree bend. We investigated, it's a old 30-inch by 36-inch stone culvert that has a flat stone top. It's deteriorated to the point where there's holes that have developed along the length of the culvert, causing soil movement, subsequent sinkhole formation. We need to remove the culvert and replace it, get proper backfill around it. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have a growing sinkhole. We may lose one lane of Battles Road. So we're seeking right now just to advertise this. We've got plans ready, and then I'll bring it back next month for a contract award once we open bids on
You have a sense for what range of cost this would be?
$125,000 is the current cost estimate.
And then Chris, how old? I mean, if that's stone, do you have a ballpark?
Oh, it's probably well over 100 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Thanks.
And if we were.
Did we
to
use
get-
conservation funds for it?
In my opinion, yes.
Chris, what about the time to do the work? If we were to get a bid back in a month and bring it back to council, is there time before?
We would,
Winter?
we would award it hopefully in September, and we'd be able to build it towards the end of September, beginning of October. So it'll be done before Halloween.
Okay. I need a motion to bid 519 Battles.
So I'll make a motion. I can tell you there's a hole. See it, walk by it, stick your arm all the way down it. So I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor and the engineer to solicit.
Bid the replacement. Thank you, Scott. Second, please. Thank you,
Second.
David.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan.
Sorry, can only hear some things.
David beat you to the switch, but
No worries, you're good.
you can jump on the next one. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom.
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner, Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is
Thank you.
ordinance 2026-39, authorizing the disposal by sale of a vehicle that is unfit, obsolete, and unneeded for village purposes and declaring an emergency. Chief, we've got a cost on this? Firm? Okay. And the mileage roughly on this vehicle?
2017.
Okay. Okay. I won't ask for
Oop.
pictures.
Move,
Let's have a res-
Suspend.
move to suspend ordinance 2026-39.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner,
Motion
Young.
approved, right?
Yes.
Move to approve ordinance 2026-39.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner, Young.
Yes.
Okay, next one, resolution, item 18, resolution number 2026-40. This is a resolution authorizing and directing the transfer of certain sums from the general fund to the capital improvement fund. As a bit of background, our capital improvement budget was $2.x million going into the year. We previously transferred $1 million to take care of costs in the first half of the year. We are going to have some large costs coming up over the next 2 to 6 weeks, and we need to transfer, move the remaining $1 million to the capital improvement fund to the capital improvement fund from the general fund. Expenditure costs will be the road program, the sidewalk bridge project, and the broadband payments. Any questions on that? Can I have a
Approve
motion
resolution number 2026-40.
to suspend the rules?
Okay, motion to suspend the rules regarding resolution 2026-40.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Roll call.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Motion to approve resolution number 2026-40 and declaring an emergency. I need that.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion? Roll call.
Broom,
Yes.
Greco,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is item number 19, and ordinance number 2026-41. This is an ordinance to amend the annual appropriation ordinance 2025-51 to increase certain appropriations and other expenditures of the village of Gates Mills for the year ending December 31, 26. There's 2 items in here. We've had some tree damage, trees down at the cemetery. We need to increase the fund by $8,000 to pay for the tree removal work. And we need to increase the land conservation fund by $35,000 for the emergency repairs that were just reviewed with you by the engineer. Suspend the rules. We need a motion to suspend the rules, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra. Second. Thank you, Scott. Any discussion?
So we're talking here about increasing the land conservation fund. You're not talking about taking money from the land conservation fund.
No, we're increasing the appropriation by taking it from the fund.
So I just want to acknowledge that to my knowledge, this is the first time that we're taking conservation funds for repair of a culvert.
No,
No?
I don't
it's
believe
not?
so. I think we've used them in the past for this type of thing.
Okay, this, like I said, this is the first time to my awareness, and I just want to acknowledge that, and also am wondering how we make distinctions among different culverts in the future, because if all culverts are coming out of the conservation fund, you know.
So the 2 things that we've done is Todd just gave you his history. We've asked Chris to weigh in on those culvert problems that are stormwater related that would justify and line up with language that's in the levy language versus those culverts that may just not be stormwater related that need repair or replacement work.
Okay,
And on any expenditure going forward of size, we'd ask Chris to evaluate it from that purpose as well.
Distinction here, Sandra, in my mind is the two you've asked for, Carpenter and Springer Road, these are directly related to erosion problems.
Yeah.
As opposed to the one on Battles, which is more of a age, replacing hard infrastructure underneath the road because of gold conservation funds isn't necessarily little addressing some issues as it relates to erosion.
Mhm.
And erosion around these culverts is more in line with.
Good. Thank you. That makes me feel better.
Okay, did we have approval on the suspension?
We have the suspension, but we didn't do a roll call.
Okay, roll call please on the suspension question.
Broom.
Yes.
Greco.
Yes.
Vanесco.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner. Young.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Sandra.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Broom.
Yes.
Greco.
Yes.
Vanесco.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Okay, and Sandra, if I could relieve you of the responsibility on number 20, ordinance 2026-42. This is an ordinance to design designation for JP Morgan Chase as public depository for the funds of the Village of Gates Mills. Our current 5-year depository agreement expires shortly, and this is to put in a replacement agreement. JP Morgan Chase is our primary banking institution.
Mr. President, could we add an emergency clause to this? It is an ordinance, it's required by state law, that council approve these, and it does need to be in effect by August 22nd.
Okay? Do we need a suspension of rules?
Yes.
Okay, so I move we
Okay.
suspend the rules on ordinance number 2026-42.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion? Roll call on the suspension question?
Broom.
Yes.
Greco.
Yes.
Vanesco.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
And I will move that we approve ordinance number 2026-42, an ordinance designating JP Morgan Chase Bank as public depository for the funds of the Village of Gates Mills and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion?
So I assume we've got the ability, if this doesn't work out or something happens with JP Morgan, it just seems odd that it's a 5-year agreement, and that's maybe how things work.
Yeah, the agreement can be terminated.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Roll call, please.
Broom.
Yes.
Greco.
Yes.
Vanesco.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, item number 21, council discussion. Are there matters that council members wish to bring forward? Hearing none. Item 22, business from the audience. Is there business in the audience that you wish to bring forward? Okay, thank you.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Broom.
Yes.
Greco.
Yes.
Onesco.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending and for the good dialogue tonight. Thank you, John and Megan, for participating in the awkward way you did.
Wasn't too bad. It actually worked well. Have a good one.
That's good to hear.
Thank-
Congrats on that one.
Thanks to Mike and everyone.
Thanks.